Hi guys, my name's Alan McNally and I'm here today to talk to you about ketosis. The good, the bad, my own personal experiences with it, my own research. I'd love feedback from you guys. So during the presentation while you're watching it, feel free to add some comments in the YouTube comment section and definitely take notes. I'd love for you guys to take notes. My personal favorite is using a black marker and white index cards. Just something about the black on the white really makes it stand out to me. Personal preference, of course. Use notepad pen, use your hand, use your friend's arm. Totally up to you. Anyways, let's get started. Let's dive into ketosis. So before we can understand ketosis, we need to know what it is. So ketosis is essentially using your ketones as a primary fuel source. Now, traditionally, it's really hard to do this because our bodies rely so heavily on glucose, and glucose comes from a high carbohydrate diet or even moderate carbohydrate diet. So as soon as carbohydrates go in your body recognizes that is going to turn it into glucose, and that's going to be the primary resource. So both ketones and glucose are stored in your body as energy. The challenge we have now is if we have too much glucose, it gets stored, and if we're not using it enough, it's getting stored into fat. Ketones burn off the body a little bit better once the glucose is burned off, which means that because we're relying so heavily on glucose, it's getting stored so much, you'd need to really run a marathon consistently to continually burn off all that glucose, or do heavy lifting, do a lot of strenuous work day in, day out, and do our sedentary lifestyles. That's just a little unrealistic. And I don't know about you, but as much as I'd love to be up running and working out all the time, I don't always have the time. I have a job, I'm sure you have jobs, even that, you might be in school, you might be at a desk all day, you might be, you just might, just want to watch TV, you might want to just be with friends, be with family, but I pretty much guarantee that we're not nearly as energetic as we should be, and I hope that through this information we take take it with a grain of salt, of course, and understand that glucose, maybe won't be the primary source of fuel in the next little while. There's lots of research coming out that it shows that ketones are a highly effective source of fuel, and will be discovered along the way, I guess. So, like I said, glucose is the primary fuel source so far. It needs to be burned down before you can rely on ketones as energy. Ketones can cross the blood-brain barrier. I think that's a really cool thing because it really affects the central nervous system in a positive way. There's been some research done on epilepsy, on Alzheimer's, on multiple sclerosis, and this ketogenic thing keeps coming up quite a bit. So it sounds like it's kind of a positive thing when it comes to the central nervous system, really getting the motor neurons working better, the synapses working better in sync, and really making your body work more efficiently, which is key here, because we live in a world that there's lots of things that challenge us and challenge us to be more sedentary than active. So if we have something that our body can use more efficiently, and we can still have a more of a sedentary lifestyle like we're more accustomed to now, I think ketosis is something we should really look into. So high carbohydrate intake increases excess glucose, and high forms of glycogen, which is the breakdown of glucose, can really cause some serious health issues like diabetes, obesity, and because that just all gets stored in your fat cells. Really, I mean, same thing with high fat. I'm sure it gets stored in your fat cells as well. But fat burns fat. One interesting thing though about high fat though is there's some potential cholesterol risk. there's a little bit of controversy on is cholesterol good, is cholesterol bad. I mean, I'm not going to get into that at all. My personal opinion is if you find that your cholesterol is getting a little high, chances are your body has some inflammation. And now I know that our body produces some cholesterol to help fight the inflammation, but obviously if it's really high, we need to really investigate that. On that note, glucose also does provide high cholesterol in excess, clogs your arteries. So is glucose better than ketones? It's a matter of perspective. So let's take a look at the food pyramid. So we got the traditional food pyramid on the left, and we got the ketogenic diet food pyramid on the right. So as we're going down here, we see food, drinks, snacks that are high in fat and sugar. So your pops, your sugary drinks, your chocolate milks and all that. Meat, fish, and alternatives. So your meat and fish, it's a low to moderate scale. Milk, cheese, and yogurt, a little bit more, and then you got your fruits and vegetables. You got your broccoli here. You got your fruit juice. It's interesting though that the fruit and vegetables are in the same category. There's some health research being done on that. We'll get more into that after I get into both of these pyramids, and we'll kind of just break them down a little bit further. And then of course on the bottom we have your breads, cereals, and potatoes. High carbohydrates, primary fuel source, right? So we're still heavily relying on that source of energy. So let's take a look at the keto food list. So we got mild sugars, so from berries and fruit, some nut intake. Then we've got some vegetables here, a little bit of cheeses and eggs. So moderate to high amount, and then we got a high amount of your red meat and your fish, and of course mostly meat. And then down here we've got a very high intake of high fats. A lot of research needs to be done more on fat so people really understand the fat aspect of it. But when I'm talking about fats, I'm talking about avocados, olive oil, coconut oil. Coconut oil is one of my favorite foods to cook with, one of my favorite oils. It retains heat really well, and you shouldn't really cook your food on high anyway. But when you cook with coconut oil, it really provides a nice healthy fat addition to your food as well. And my personal favorite food, my two personal favorite foods are in the most abundant section, which is yay me. We got your bacon and avocados. I eat avocados religiously. I would say at least one a day. And I haven't had any health issues due to it. If anything, I crave them more and more. So, whereas most people would crave more bread and more rice, I crave more avocados. So, it's just really a matter of what you're into these days. So, okay, so let's break down this one a little bit more. We'll start from the bottom this time because we got the breads, cereals, and potatoes. We talked there's a lot of starches, a lot of carbohydrates, and then we get into your fruits and veggies. So, when you break down carbohydrates into glucose and glycogen, that essentially is sugar, especially when you're storing extra amounts of it. So you're storing extra amounts of it in your adipose tissue and your fat cells, which means that you're storing sugar basically. So you're getting an overabundance of sugar. So you're getting a lot from your carbohydrates here. You're getting, your fruit juices are pure sugar. No matter what they tell you, it's pure sugar. They need to change that. Then you got your fruits and vegetables of like a whole source, but that should be within moderation as well. I definitely err on the caution of how much fruit you eat because even though there's lots of fiber in the fruits that you eat, there's still lots of sugar. So again, you're getting lots of sugar from this, lots of sugar from that, and even in the vegetables you're getting some carbohydrates, but I'd rather you get the carbohydrates from your vegetables than from your breads. And then you got your milk, cheese, and yogurts. Essentially, as soon as you're putting that in your mouth, it's becoming, it's breaking down into simple sugars. So again, you get sugar, 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 This stuff really affects your insulin level, and when it really affects your insulin level, you really become really ill, and you like I said, get things like diabetes, become obese, and lots of other health risks involved there as well. And then at the top, even more sugar. So the majority of this is sugar, other than the meat and alternatives. And on the keto diet, you have a high fat intake, high meat intake. And with meat, grass-fed always. Fresh caught fish, and then your veggies should always be as organic as you can get them, and even your eggs, farm fresh eggs, farm raised, vegetarian feed for that as well, and then for your berries, a little bit of berries because you're getting a little bit of sugar and a little bit of carbohydrates from that. So a little bit of carbs, a little bit of decent amount of protein, but a lot of fat. Just provides a really interesting fuel source for the body and overall wellness. One cool thing I like about glucose is obviously it provides you with a ton of energy. But later on, I guess the best way to look at glucose is it really, unless you're going to be doing a marathon every day and you're going to be really working out frequently like a madman, you don't need to rely on so much glucose. The glucose is nice because it's always an extra, it's the primary reserve. Your brain needs it, your body needs it, your body can't function without it. But I think we do this over in abundance. So, reduce your carbs, start to increase the fats. Ketogenic diets have, like I said, focused on improving Alzheimer's, seizures, all these kinds of illnesses related to the central nervous system. And one great thing I absolutely love about the ketogenic diet is it suppresses your appetite. So, not that you eat less calories, it just means that you don't need to eat as frequently, and you don't need to rely on the blood sugar decrease or the blood sugar spikes in your diet to know when to eat. You can just kind of eat when you're hungry. I really feel that the ketogenic diet is something there needs to be more research on to see if it's something that can be extremely healthy, or if there's lots of risks involved with it. But my personal experience has been amazing. I have more energy. I feel like my brain functions even better. I highly advise you to go to a professional before you make a decision on it, but definitely make sure that you're aware of the information, and research what's out there, because I think it's I think life's too short to stress out about it and getting sick. Nobody wants to get sick, but the more research we can do together, the more we can make a fulfilling life together. Anyways, thank you so much for your time. I hope you got a lot of this presentation. Talk soon. Bye for now.